What's going on, everybody? It's Brandon here, coming to you with a swing trade idea on NVDA. Right now it is the 19th, Tuesday, about 8 p.m., and we're going to take you through a little bit of what I see on NVIDIA here. If you remember, we were trading this about last week when it was channeling real bad. We'll show you those, excuse me, those channel drawings in a second here. Right now we're on the 5-day 5-minute, and from the highs here, we are using the first red candle's body and wick here on the 5-day 5-minute to draw these trend lines here. Now, from the high, from the first trend line, we're going into the next active day's highest number, which has to be this 267.47, and letting that trend run all the way through to current. And then we're taking again from the highs to pre-market high, which happens to be this red candle at 650, and letting that run concurrent all the way through. When I use these 5-day, 3-day, 2-day trend lines, I always try to use a high or a low as far as live and pre-market, okay, when I'm charting these out. Now you can see this expanded lighthouse channel we got, kind of shining light down here for the next few days, and you can see how many times this top trend line comes into play, where it hits this resistance and kind of sells off for days and days and days. It has a little pop over here, but if you remember me talking about the 200 EMA and big tech and how if it does recover the 200, it usually does, and still a little bit of buying, and you will usually see a recovery of the 200 EMA and some pop for longs on that, but you can see it broke out of the channel here and recovered the 200 at the same time, so it's kind of bullish here and just kind of popped out of that channel, which is to kind of be expected when that happens, when that interacts with the 200 EMA. So it comes back down in here, it gets back into the channel, and everybody panics because our trend line here, came into play, and boom, 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 sell off. Today got shied the upper trend line yet again, and then had a big sell-off. It ended up hitting this really big support at 259 we had. Now 259 came into play a lot back in the last week when we were trading the that channel I was talking about, way back here. So I was charting this channel out where it was high lows, high lows, high lows, high lows, just squeezing, all the way to the tip. We ended up trading it was it Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday right here for this channel break, when it came out of the trend for that nice big run, came back in, found support, and had another huge run after hours. So it was some really good trades there. And then it ended up being a swing idea because of how bullish it ended up closing that day and swinging up, a substantial amount, like 6-7 points. So it runs up, sets a couple highs the next couple days after it broke out of the first channel we were watching it in. So these highs are where I started the channel now for the move we're looking at for swing trading. Now, onto today. This 259 area was a really big deal. Even if you look at the daily here, 259 is right here at the bottom of this candle, and coincidentally again right where we started the channel back here at 6.4 on the low side, we used that wick, but the body of this candle is what was important because it had been tested multiple times through the bodies and the wicks of these 4 days here. So as this 259 is going to come into play, it's going to be a huge ordeal after it dropped all the way down to 255, found support, and when it ended up breaking out of the 259 resistance after it came down below and hit the 255 and came back, it had a lot of momentum, had a ton of volume, ton of bulls here, ton of buying in, ton of short covers that were probably in from back here and earlier today. So if you look at the trading action today, it had a big sell-off, found that support, slowly grinded up, but it got back into our low channel, right? It's that low line that we have on the 5-day 5-minute chart that comes from our high of the 5 days to our first pre-market high, whether it be red or green. This was our high here. You could even move it up a centimeter here. It lines up pretty much. I like using the red candles more than the green here. So the body of this red candle in pre-market. So it recovers that trend here and it starts getting support. Okay. Well, intraday today, that would have been a great support and buy here because we found support on this 256.95 level from a couple tops here, but it ended up hopping back into the trend, holding the trend, and then coming up here and becoming very bullish as the 9 crosses over VWAP and 50, but it gets rejected on 100, which a lot of large cap and techs do. But that rejection ends up being again right at that 259 level we were watching. That big resistance, it kind of shied it here. It had a split candle here before it sold off under the 259. There's a big panic under 259 because that number worked out a lot in that channel prior to trading this last week. So after the 259 was broken, smashing through the 100, smashing through the 200, and way over the channel, just gets, super squeezed, super bulls, blah, blah, blah. I mean, everybody just kind of covered, I feel, right there. That happened to me maybe in yesterday after hours, even today's pre-market, and people that must have got in short at the 50 EMA rejection that didn't cover their full position because it held our lower trend and continued upward here. But now what we're looking for is, now that it's held 259, it's got a really strong close on it, I expect NVIDIA to come back out of this channel and start grinding back up. Okay, so after it had sold off from these highs, it found a support at 255 and rocketed back up, and then found some really good support here at the 260.25 level. Okay, so you could mark that out as well if you wanted to watch that level. But evidently this should ride this 260.25 up, maybe test this trend, maybe come back down to 259 and hold. But I think at the end of this channel we're going to break to the upside. We should break over, hopefully this stay over this close, this 260.11. And if NVIDIA doesn't have a big sell-off, after hours here again, come all the way back down, this is going to look good for a swing trade idea, because this is going to hopefully hold up in this early 260s range, break out of the channel, kind of have a fight with this 260-250s area. I would want it to see a bounce around between 260, 250 for the day, kind of grab some more support, and then just kind of slowly grind up, and then close over the 260-260s here. And that's going to be our swing trade. So I want to try to get in maybe pre-market. We're going to see what it plays out as, but this is these are the levels you're going to be watching for tomorrow. You're going to see if it is going to come out of this channel, hold over this 260, 259 being your ultimate support. So it does reject this channel, comes back down, it's going to find support either at 259.30s here, maybe a little bit below at 259. It has to hold that 259 to be super interesting. If you do get a big sell-off and it finds support real quick at 257, don't be afraid to scalp that for a day trade tomorrow for sure. But I'm really thinking this is just going to hold this 260s level, this 260.25, grind up, break out of the channel, kind of mess around in this area between that $2 mark we were just talking about, and evidently just kind of grind up, hoping to recover at least 3-4 points here, and look for a swing trade on this in the next 2 to 3 days. First profit take 265.75. It's yesterday's highs before it had that big sell-off, so I'm looking to fill this big gap it had of the sell-off from Monday. So that's your swing trade idea, and that's the reasoning behind it. So I'm hoping that gives you a little bit of insight on this NVIDIA and this channel drawing, and kind of gives you an idea of what I'm looking for to happen. So we will see what it does in the morning, and I'll see you guys then.